Folks, this is your Pop Abbott Pete. Real quick, there is an unknown crackle sound in this today's episode that, despite my best efforts and my best research using Adobe Audition and Audacity, I genuinely couldn't remove. So I do apologize in advance, and I'll try not to let this happen again. Thanks, and enjoy the episode.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Recorder on the Wall. This week we're doing Mariel Book 3. I am Captain Tammo.
I'm Matthias 720.
I'm Katie.
I'm Adam.
I'm Jeremy.
And I'm Pete. Apparently there was like a bowl game or something last week. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what's so fun about passing a bowl around, but...
Well, apparently it was a very Super Bowl, so I think it had a cape on it.
Oh, okay.
But
See,
not at all super.
That's what I heard.
I was going to make a very obscure reference, but maybe it was the Sugar Bowl from Series of Unfortunate Events. Which I don't know if anyone has seen.
Although, I will say, and just because I'm in St. Louis, I heard about it later from coworkers and colleagues about some of the local commercial slots that got filled up. You know, there's always most of it is national commercial slots, and then there's always local ones. We had one of those personal injury attorneys with those lawyers locally who, they film their own commercials. He did a 30-second slot of making fun of the Rams, and it was glorious.
Nice.
I don't know.
What a guy. I like it.
I saw one of the commercials before it started, and I came up with a better ending for it. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, we finished a book last week.
Yay!
We're back to it.
Another one bites the dust.
So when we left off, Mariel and her crew had not even gotten into the ocean yet. So.
Nope. A lot happens during this book.
Yes. Yes, it does. So, and it's hard to organize into an A and B plot like usual. So.
Yeah, sort of an uneven structure with the tiny little book 2 and then this giant ending book.
When we left off, the Long Patrol Hares, Han, Rosie, and her crew had finally made it to Redwall. Or at least that's what we think they were. And the Redwallers opened the door, and it's Furman. Ah!
Whoops.
Plot twist.
Psych.
What a twist.
Oh, no.
Wait a minute. Did everybody just make a joke right then, one after the other?
Yes.
Yeah, kind of, we did, yeah.
Can we get that kind of coordination all the time? That was great.
No, probably
Instead
not.
of talking over each other. But, and I love the first thing is like, hey, you're hurt. It's a flesh wound.
Yes.
So. But yeah,
Don't everyone all talk at once.
I know.
Oh, we're all silent.
I mean, I got to remember here what happens here. So as well.
Well, we do see the villains, and I chide the villains repeatedly for not knowing the difference between a hare and a rabbit, but considering I don't think I've actually ever seen a real life hare, I'm just gonna assume, like Big Fang is just general idiot. Like he's just dumb with everything. Which later on, it's very well proven that he's just an idiot.
Yes, I did not expect that character moment with coming up during the second slave rescue. I did not expect him to be that incredibly dumb.
Well, he's been hit on the head a few times, I'm sure.
Well,
Big
maybe,
Fang,
but
not
I mean,
big brain.
but I mean, so has Martin, and he knows the difference between moles and squirrels, I think.
This is true.
Was Big Fang the one who fell from the top of the Abbey, though, and landed on somebody?
That was Kaibo.
Kaibo.
Ah,
That was
dang it.
Kaibo the Immortal.
Yes.
Kaibo the Immortal.
I'd say
Wonderful.
he landed on Big Fang, but Big Fang was around the front on distraction team.
Yeah.
Actually, Big Fang did get hit in the head by a rock at that point, which is kind of lying there in front of the Abbey, and then they dragged him away.
True.
That is true.
What a day. I would just, oof.
There's a lot of head trauma in this franchise.
There really is.
You know, all
Yeah.
things considered, the rats do surprisingly well for the amount of concussions they've probably had.
Yeah,
This is
you hit the nail on the head.
Ooh,
true.
there it is.
Or hit the rat on the head.
And we also get, in the first chapter, we also get Han Rosie being chatted on her laughter by the Badger Mom. Like, if you wake up my kids, I'm going to hurt you.
I'm gonna throw you off the wall.
Notice she doesn't ask where Tarquin is.
No. Yeah, she never mentions him at all.
I wonder if they're still going to get married.
Oh, we'll see.
Let me
So-
shake my fandom 8-ball.
Yeah.
Were they
Try
aware
again later. 8-ball
Were they
been
aware
hitting
that
head.
Tarquin was heading to Redwall, though?
Maybe not. I thought maybe it had been known, but
Yeah, who knows who the Badger Lord tells his, plans to. Maybe he's just like, oh, they don't need to know about this.
Well, I mean, Rawnblade did kind of just send everybody else out on random errands, and it's like, all right, I'm gonna kill every sea rat on this ship now.
I'm
And
going to
everyone
commit
came back and
murder.
went, oh.
I'm sure Tarquin left Rosie several notes saying, "I'm leaving for Redwall. Send your letters here."
Forwarding
Yeah.
address.
Well, he had to leave notes because she probably blocked his text messages by now.
Swipe left.
Yes.
I think.
So, in the audiobook, right, they bring in Han Rosie, and I usually listen to these books when I'm driving or something, like to and from work or something like that. And I don't want to say I was dozing off while I was driving. That's not right. But I was zoning out. Okay.
You're on
And
autopilot.
yeah, I was
Yeah.
on autopilot. It's a great way of saying it. I was in traffic and stuff like that, not so focused, just going in a straight line, and I'm paying attention to the book, not quite so much. And then Han Rosie's laugh comes on, and
Yep.
they describe it in the book as very obnoxious, very loud, very squeaky and high. And I got to tell you, whoever that voice actress was did a phenomenal job
Oh,
getting
that woman's
laugh that just
fantastic.
absolutely pulls you back to reality, and you're like, what was that?
Yep. She is fantastic. She also played Sarmina, Avis Germain. Like,
wow.
Really?
she had a very lots of talents, yes.
So did they
I-
bring back like a bunch of the old cast? Is the cast recurring throughout all the audiobooks?
Yes, for the most part. There's one guy who's always, like, from as far as I know, like he's always there, and then Mark Jakes, who's Brian Jakes' son, does a lot of voices as well. But yeah, a lot of the people they bring back. Sometimes they have, especially toward the later books, they have newer people, but mostly it's the same core cast, just playing different voices.
Man, can you imagine how cool that would be, playing a voice on one of these things?
Oh, I know.
Yeah, it reminds me, there was almost the same time we launched, there was, I didn't mention on the cast because I didn't think it was worth drawing attention to, but there was a guy trying to organize his own unsanctioned fan read. Yeah, like
I
his
remember
own
that.
audiobook.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I remember I was not the only one to call him out, although I did, and I'm like, look, and what we do here definitely falls under what we call fair use because we are reviewing it, but we don't, we aren't literally reading the transcript of the book.
Mm-hmm.
We're just covering the mostly high points.
We throw out a quote here and there.
True,
Right.
but folks, this is true of any intellectual property. If you're thinking of making your own fan work, sure, fan art, fan fiction, most of the industry does not care. But if you do something that would literally replace something they're trying to do, that would take money out of their pocket, they will come down on you. And that was such an effort.
And that's
Yes.
no good.
That would be bad.
There's a reason every abridged series out there says, please support the official release. And
Yeah.
we do too.
Well, we encourage everyone to just buy every single book and read along with us.
That'd be a good idea. And even if you can't do that, most libraries have the whole collection.
Borrow every
Exactly.
single book. and then read along with us.
And most libraries have the audiobooks too. If you would like to experience the joy of Han Rosie's laugh.
I almost want like an audio clip of that so I can use it as a text message sound.
I could probably
what?
pull it up and find it.
Yeah.
Hold on. I'm gonna mute myself for a minute. I mean, keep talking and like do the podcast and stuff. Just
No, we're gonna be
Okay.
dead silent
Yeah.
waiting for you.
So,
everybody wait for
Please
Tammo.
hold.
Yep.
Da, da, da,
Do,
da.
do, 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 do.
Your call is important to us.
Your call.
Your wait time is 36 days, 45 hours.
Furman HR only has Old Man Ashleg at the phones.
When you hear the Joseph bell ring, it will be your turn.
I'm sorry, but the
Okay.
Joseph Bell has now been split up the middle. Goodbye.
If you hear the Matthias bell. Oh.
Oh man.
But back to the plot. I know.
Yes.
But yeah, we have the Hares arrive and they start basically telling the Abbey, hey, let us recommend some few good military actions. And as the Abbot is like, okay.
A few good hairs.
Well, there's not enough for a dozen, so I can't make a dirty dozen joke.
Oh, I was thinking like a few good men.
Yeah, I know.
Uh,
I was building off your joke.
yeah. I want the tooth. You can't handle the fang. Anyway.
No.
The good, the
love
bad,
this
and the
kind
annoying
of-
laughing one.
Yes. I
Yeah.
love how this kind of shows the different personalities of the Hares because, like, you know, on one hand, they're sort of like kind of devil may care and jolly and stuff. But when it comes to military strategy, like, they really know what they're doing and they have a plan and they kind of drop that sort of jollity for a few minutes and just be like, okay, this is a bow. We're going to fire the bow, do what we say, you know, stuff like that.
Yep. Yeah, it like makes a point to say that Colonel Clary immediately is like, yeah, all right, here's the deal. This is what's going to happen. And he's like, here, point out a target for me. They're like, that guy. Okay. Boom. That's it. He's dead.
Yep. And poor Saxtus is like, oh, that was quick.
Yeah. That's very sudden.
The Hares' first task, they make longbows, which are apparently have a lot more range than the standard Redwall fare. So,
Really turns the tables on the fire throwers.
yep. Hey, does that look like an arrow to you? Because that's literally the chapter artwork for the opening chapter here of 27. Is a rat like straight out of Monty Python, taking an arrow right to the chest.
Whoops.
Message for you, sir.
I love how Grey Patch is like, no, we'll still beat them. And he grabs a fire swinger and then he dodges an arrow, but then he loses momentum and he drops it on his foot.
Hotfoot.
Yes.
His new rat name is Hotfoot.
Perfect.
You know, that could be a slightly inappropriate rat name.
Possibly.
But this is not that type of podcast.
No, it is not. So, yeah, Grey Patch is having a bad day.
Yeah. I
He's
do
having
like,
a lot of them of late.
I
Yes.
like after the attacks, like once they have a lull, we get this little scene with Burgo, Gabe, and Hubert. I'm just like, oh, glad that's over. Let's go get drunk.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Can you blame them? They've been up all night fighting
Yeah.
fire.
I have a feeling that Gabriel Quill is like the ancestor of Ambrose Spike.
Maybe.
I wouldn't
Could be.
doubt it.
No, it's not. It's not. Clearly, he doesn't have as much of a problem as Ambrose did, but yeah. I do like the ending of this chapter is literally the Dimension like, we want to go out and play. We don't want breakfast.
Yes,
Divins are very unruly in this one.
they are.
When are they ever not, though?
I was gonna say it's kind of sort of a theme throughout the whole,
True.
the whole series of books.
Well, back
Though,
at the
I mean,
name.
Baby Rolo at least, bit, what was it, like General Ironbeak's leg like to the bone, so like that was pretty cool.
No, I'm pretty sure that was Sister May.
Oh right. That was it. Okay.
Baby
Saving
Rolla
you
just
from-
sang rude songs to them.
That was it.
So, meanwhile, Harry opens the pond with a spell to get the sword. Oh, no, sorry, wrong book.
What?
Wrong book.
Huh?
In the book 7 of Harry Potter, there's an almost identical scene where Harry has to get a MacGuffin out of a pool, like Mariel and Dandon are doing. That's the joke.
That's the joke.
Except for Mariel's smart enough to have someone go with her. Harry's like, I will do this myself because I'm dumb.
I like the underwater section of this, because we don't get that many moments of characters being underwater in this franchise. Like, the moment that sticks out for me for this is like Martin being dragged along the River Moss by Skipper back in Mossflower.
Mm-hmm.
But usually we don't get scenes like this, and I can't really think of other ones like this in the series.
Yeah,
I'm
it'd be
struggling
kind
to
of
think
scary.
of one.
And it
I
just
think
has like
there
this.
was...
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I think there was one in Hyrule Lane where she was trying to find the crown and went underwater for a little bit. But I think that's the only other one I can remember.
Yeah, no, that does sound familiar now. Yeah,
For how
and
often they're out at sea.
This
Not
is
a lot
true.
underwater.
This is true. And it's also cool because like this whole section, there's no dialogue too. It's just all of them underwater. There's no perspective from the characters up above the pond or pool or whatever they're inside. And it's just, and you get like the feeling of tension with Mariel and Dan, and like Mariel of, what are they doing up there? We're drowning down here. What's going on? And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden the rocks come falling down and went, oh, that's what they're doing.
Yes. And we don't have a crab this time. We have a lobster.
Yep.
It's just a regular lobster. It's not a rock lobster.
We were at a party. And yeah, so they get out, and Mariel's like, well, that was a waste. We didn't even get the swallow we were looking for. And Bobo's like, oh, yeah?
Have it, I do. Yoda, I am.
Look what I found behind your ear. And congratulations, guys. You found the first compass in Mossflower.
Da 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 da.
Which never shows up in any other books.
You found the metal swallow. It'll help guide you to Gabool. And we get a cool bit of continuity here where way back, I think it was book 1 where they burned the Green Fang. And all of a sudden they find the burnt like remains of the Green Fang, and Bobo's like, yeah, you could totally use this. I mean, it's burnt to almost nothing, and the sails are gone, and it's probably going to fall apart if you look at it the wrong way, but it's a ship.
You might want to get insurance on this thing.
No
Just
insurance
saying.
company would ever cover that. They would
Yeah.
never
Bobo
do
is
it.
the first Mossflower used car salesman.
He talks
You
like
can
Yoda.
hold a lot of driftwood in this baby.
It has a lot of personality to it. Yeah, I
It's
kind of
great,
want to
so-
use that as a text message sound now.
Yeah. It'll definitely get your attention.
I
Oh
was
yeah.
trying to listen through the audio, like skipping like a few seconds ahead every time to figure out where they had parts and stuff, and then I realized we have entire documents of notes that point out every single time Rosie laughs.
Yeah.
So I was listening to that at like 3 times speed, and so I finally got to, and it's like, and then
Rosie is
it's like, oh, that's the one, that's the one. Anyway, what are we talking about?
Bobo is apparently, we've decided that Bobo is a used car salesman and is trying to sell them on the burnt out Green Fang.
Oh yeah, that's a good part. Yeah, good old.
Yes, I
This
mean, to
babe-
his credit, he did say, yeah, guys, this is kind of burnt, but it has this lovely smell of smoke to it. You can
It's
think
a
about,
fixer-upper.
grilling meat.
It's a real fixer-upper.
Yeah,
It has a,
fixer-upper.
Or
yeah.
is the current way I see it on random signs in town, it's a handyman's dream.
Oof.
It has a wonderful charcoal patina.
The wood is all stained with blood, but it's stained.
Is the floor supposed to come apart when I stand on it?
Yes.
If I say
yes.
yes, will you believe me?
You can
It's a
conveniently
feature.
store things. It's storage.
It's
Storage.
sto-
Yes.
Just
Why
imagine one
bother
of them
with
being
stairs?
like, Tarquin's like, I'm just gonna put my hair in it and down, and it just like falls right through.
Whoops.
Oh,
It also
thank
comes with
goodness.
security trapdoors.
They're speed holes.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, like in a video game where you drop down to the next level?
Oh yeah.
It's part of one of those rock pushing puzzles.
Yeah.
You have to do that every time you travel down to the next floor.
Then carry it back up.
We're spending
Yes.
more time on this boat than the book does.
Yes, we are.
Well, yes. It was
So it really is just
pretty
there,
short.
and then it's not, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry if you can hear that. That's my dryer.
That's
It's
all right.
done. And it's announcing to the entire world that it's done. Anyway.
Oh, that's all right. On our other podcast, there's one episode where randomly you just hear in the background, and that was my dryer.
Yes, at least mine sings a little song to me.
Which episode was that?
Oh god, I don't remember. I just remember one of us talking, and you just hear like this loud, obnoxious buzz go off.
Red alert!
Indeed. So yeah. So how short, like, because I remember reading it and thinking that this voyage takes like no time at all before it gets rudely interrupted by some sea rats. Um, but yeah, it just seems super short to me. Like they're sailing and nope, they're not.
Yep. I love the fact that the ship is such a piece of like burnt out trash that another ship just plows right through it and goes, "What was that?"
Yeah, like they weren't even it wasn't an intentional Vila Dascar type thing. I get the impression it was just like, oh, oops.
Yeah, they're like something just kind of came up out of nowhere. Whatever, all right.
So, all right. So let me get this straight. So the boat's destroyed now. All 4 of our travelers are thrown into the sea. 2 of them get swept up by the sea rats. The other 2 go unnoticed, and our Badger Lord comes in Deus Ex Machina style and just sort of stumbles across them.
Yep.
Yes.
Pretty much, yeah.
Pretty much.
Deus Ex
I believe it.
Mustadole.
I just put a wild Rawnblade appears. Rawnblade uses rescue on Mariel and Tarquin. It's super effective.
Yep.
I wrote Badger Lord
Did you
out
really?
of nowhere.
Badger Lord out of nowhere. Tarquin's
nice.
like, "Oh, sir, I didn't realize you'd taken up sailing. Why is everything red?" "Oh, no reason."
All right. So after our Badger Lord comes in, we skip up. We're back at the Abbey now, right? We're looking at Grey Patch.
Did we?
Yeah.
Did
We've
we
got.
see the?
Sorry.
Sorry, did we see that Dan and Dury were captured, like, and their experience yet, or does that come later? I don't remember.
I
That's
think
later.
that comes a little bit later.
Okay.
It does, yeah. I kept forgetting about Dury.
Poor Dury.
Yeah. Doesn't get
He
much
doesn't
time.
have a personality till the next book.
That's right, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's hard to be the audience surrogate and have actual character at the same time.
Well, yes.
I feel like he's trying to, like, he's supposed to be like the Dinny mole of the group, but Dinny had much more of a personality to him.
Hmm.
And we get Tree Rose continuing to just fail, where she tries to flirt with. I think this is the part where she tries to flirt with Roof Brush, and she's like, "Are you my roofie woofie?" And he's like, "Well, I don't know who that is, but I'm gonna walk away now." And she just kind of sits there like, "Oh."
Yes. I sort of felt bad for her, but only sort of.
Yeah.
I mean, if you
If
call
that's how
someone
it
an
went
annoying
between
pet name, yeah. no, like no pet names.
I don't think there's a single instance in the entire series of a pet name of like that caliber actually working on anybody.
Right.
It's just no.
Yeah,
But on the plus
usually-
side,
Hmm.
oh, I was just gonna say on the plus side, with this feast, we get another +1 to the Burgo and garlic counter.
Bacon.
And remember, kids, he doesn't like the taste. I mean, he doesn't like the smell, but he dearly does love the taste.
Yeah, which he loves to repeat. Like we should have a counter for that as well. Apparently, because every time they
Yeah.
talk about the stink, he has to
Yeah.
like repeat himself in varying ways too. Like he doesn't say this. It's not like the copy and pasted sentence. He does like a little different thing every time.
It's 3.
Yep.
I counted.
I do have to admit, though, watching the Divins imitate the hares, that would have been a lot of fun to write.
Yes.
Those are the
Kinda
snarkiest Dibbins. Snarky. I mean, the only one I could think of that's more snarky is Dwaffle in Marl Fox, but we'll get there.
Oh man, that kid was a jerk.
Yeah, I don't even remember him now. I remember Marl
know.
Fox. I remember reading through it, but I don't remember that kid. So.
Oh, be glad. You'll be
Oh,
thanking me when we get there.
Oh, I remember. He was the one with the crew, with the Rosehip crew, the what's it called crew?
Noonvale Troop.
Noonvale players, right?
Yeah.
And he got captured at one point, and then they save him, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Spoilers. Spoilers from off.
Oh, okay. No, I'm just like, it's now coming back to me. It's like, all right, that's the part where Craig gets scary again.
I'm about
Yeah,
to say,
see,
does that ever stop?
I can't yell at
No.
anyone for spoiling anything since I spoiled Martin the Warrior. So
We still bleep that out. So
Yeah, we
did. You saved it. You saved it.
And yeah, then we get the next stage of this where Melis is like, "Oh, I really wish someone would go and save those poor ore slaves." Wink, wink, nod, nod, nudge, nudge. And she's
Yes.
about as subtle as like tumbling rocks.
As subtle at that, and also she exposition bots. She transforms into an exposition bot because she's like, I have too much in my mind to worry about stuff because I am thinking about Mariel and Dandon. Mariel was once called Storm Gullwhacker.
bleep, boop.
I mean, not exactly, but basically that's what she says.
Pretty much.
And we definitely see a difference between here and obviously Constance later on, because Constance would have been like, "Oh, slaves, excuse me, I'll be right back,"
Yes.
and then be like, "Hey guys, I'm back with the slaves."
Either gonna go make a weapon or grab a chair and beat the rats with it and save them.
Or maybe, tie some up in a net and drag them into the pond,
or bash them against a wall.
as you do.
Yep.
Or use a dining room table as a flail.
Yes.
But yes, Melis is weighed down by all these concerns.
Yeah. And Clary decides to show off his word-a-day calendar skills. It's like, we'll take care of that jolly reprobate. Who talks like that?
Hairs.
Yeah.
Well, apparently a hare can't refuse a request from a badger.
Yep.
It's in the
Yes.
handbook.
No, it's in the handbook.
Why are we
Along with
washing
the-
Sunflash's motorcycle again? Shut up.
We signed the contract in blood.
It's in paragraph C, right below the blood wrath protocol. Just refresh your recollection of it.
So one thing I thought that was kind of neat is somewhere in here, and I didn't write down where it was, but a couple of the characters in the Abbey, they picking up on some stuff about the hares, and that is they're always really, upbeat and jolly when it comes to these real tense situations. And then it's sort of just revealed by Brian. He says, yeah, all of that is a facade because they cannot bear how serious and how stressful everything is, that they just do that to put everyone at ease, but inside they're all just freaking out all the time. And
Yeah,
I was
That's
like,
later
something
on.
Sactus is picking up on.
Yeah.
yeah, and I was like, are you kidding me? Like, that's kind of dark, don't you think? Like, the only reason they're all happy and go lucky like that, I mean, maybe it becomes habit after a little while. You know, they do that to just trick everyone around them into thinking that they can relax a little bit.
I mean, I didn't take it exactly like that. I took it as like, the darker things are, the jollier they are. But I mean, I didn't think it as like they were freaking out all the time. But
Okay,
just
well,
like,
yeah.
Yeah, I kind of look at it as they're all like, especially with these three in this situation, they're the experienced soldiers and warriors among the hey, what's a bow look like characters, and so they're like, we have to look confident and happy-go-lucky, like, oh, don't worry about it, we'll take care of everything. Like I think these three especially are like, we have to be confident so we can put everyone at ease.
I mean, there's a very
Yeah.
good reason as parents, much less if you ever have to watch the kids. The last thing you want to show them is that you're panicking over a situation. You
yeah.
have to keep your composure, because if you start losing it, that kid is really going to freak out.
Mm-hmm.
It's the facade of control. If you look like you're out of control and you don't have any sort of handle on the situation, then the people who are looking to you for support are going to start to go crazy, and then things get that much more out of control.
Yeah, that's a real good point. Can you imagine if, you know, the Badger Lord just came downstairs like, oh my gosh, we're under attack. Just go. Everyone just go. I can't deal with this.
I'm
Yeah.
just like picturing now like Rawnblade like running down in a panic. Guys, I saw a spider in my room. Oh!
I could actually believe that, though.
Kill
I mean,
it,
look,
kill
there-
it, kill it.
There are some parts, and you know, the
like
parts come
jumping
up
up
a
and
little-
down on his tippy claws, like, oh!
So there are some parts a little later that we'll get to in a bit where they keep this going, like even in what seems like a really, really bad spot, and they carry themselves so well and so confidently that they kind of make a note of it when it's happening. But I guess that's still a few chapters. So just be on the lookout for that part. I think everyone knows what it is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the hares also are having a grand amount of fun by literally staying at the edges of the Roman camp and shouting insults at Greypatch.
Yeah.
This is
They-
one of my favorite parts of this book.
Me
because
too.
It gives
Me
me
too.
one of my favorite new insults: sea-scabbed poltrooms.
Yes.
It's very creative.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like
Brian
it. I
Jakes
sort of
is
saw
very
it like
creative with his insults.
he really is. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I saw it kind of like this thing where it's like right, because the rats, they set up all these traps and stuff for the hares, all these tripwires and stuff, and then you pan over and you got Han Rosie just sort of twanging the tripwire like a little string, like, ugh, I can't believe they did this. What do you guys want to do?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh
how
yeah, you know,
quaint.
just move these all, and then let's yell at them. And I'm like, oh my gosh, such a good idea. Let's go do that. And they
Yes,
do,
and-
and then nobody notices until what does Rosie just start laughing? Oh yeah. They
So-
they get them going, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think the first night they didn't do the tripwires because they didn't know that the hares were going to come. And I think the first night was when Rosie laughed and gave the game away. And I think the second night was when they used the moles
Yeah.
and moved the
Where-
traps around.
The second night is where we get just not only do we get Big Fang being an idiot, but then we get him being further an idiot where he's like, oh, they must have used those squirrels to dig all those tunnels. And Greypatch is like, moles, you idiot. And then as they're like in total chaos, Rosie's running away going, no, we totally did use squirrels. And Big Fang goes, see, I told you, she said they used squirrels.
Yes.
Meanwhile,
Big
Greypatch
Fang.
is
I
hanging on her
cannot believe it.
tripwire rope, like, kill me now.
It was
Big Fang.
amazing. Yeah.
Big Fang, I said to shut your gob. You talk too much. Squirrels don't dig mud, brain. It's otters what dig holes.
And there's Melis on the wall overhearing all this. Man, maybe they just leave them alone. They'll go away on themselves. I kind of feel sorry for this.
Just kill each other off.
Yeah.
You know, this
it
is
really
one of
doesn't
those.
take a whole lot for the hares to like get the sea rats trying to kill each other.
Yeah.
No, it really doesn't. And this is one of those instances where it's like Ryan's writing does a really, really good job with humor because you've got fight slash, it's almost like a heist trying to get these guys, these slaves out. And he just adds this layer of comedy on top of it where you've got all these different kinds of sentiments playing a role at once. And it's really good.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
I also like the comment where Melis first tells them about the slaves, and she's like, "Oh, by the way, your friend the squirrel is out there." And Clary's like, "Oh, Packatug? Oh, that idiot probably just got himself captured."
Yeah.
Yep.
They're like, "Whatever, we don't care."
It's like, yeah, it was probably his own fault.
Meanwhile, back at Gabool's island, where it's Crazy Town, apparently, because Flogga and Captain Flogga, the shit rat helm, basically comes back in, and he's just like, he has smart enough to take his entire crew with him from the boat, because when he finally gets to from Gabool, Gabool's just kind of like, I'm picturing Gabool like Ace Ventura faking getting committed. I'm sorry.
No, I thought you were saying he's going up to them and like talking out of his butt.
Yep.
I'm not sure that's exclusive at this point.
Yeah, a bit of this is left up to the reader's imagination, so go with what you got.
I mean, Gabool's gone off the deep end, drowned in madness, resurfaced, and then drowned again, intentionally. Can you
Gabool's
say,
like, "I'm not crazy. The bell told me I was sane."
Ya Cthulhu Fatagan?
Oh, which I do like is I made a comment on the last show about maybe Gabool is faking it, which obviously by now Gabool gone goofy, but I like how even Flogga is like, all right, is he faking this? Or is he really mad? And then after like a few minutes, he's like, yeah, Gabool's insane. Unfortunately, Flogga's an idiot because he's like, all right, I could take advantage of this. And oh, you have this treasure down there and you'll totally jump into this pit with me. All right, I'll totally. Oh God, a scorpion!
Fatality.
Yeah, find out
Yeah,
what
see-
Scrapleg is.
Indeed. But it's like, oh my gosh, even the smartest sea rats, like you mentioned the word treasure, and they're like, oh, treasure. Okay, I'll do anything. I'll do anything for treasure. Shiny.
My name's Gray
It's like,
Patch. Sure it is.
wow. Yeah.
It's pretty sad that even though like Gabool's completely off his rocker, and the rocker has now been split into 18 pieces, and he's still like jumping on it. Like he's still smarter than the other sea rats.
Yes.
Like that's really sad.
I'm telling you, man, it's the concussions. Really does a number
Like
on
I
you.
may be insane, but at least I don't have a concussion.
Yes.
So yeah, Gabool he's crazy, and he's just like, hey, hi, not Gray Patch, who I totally don't have a crush on, and I'm totally over it. Guys, just leave me alone.
Yeah.
This is giving me flashbacks to when Sarmina kind of was starting to lose it, and she like shoots one of her own rats in the head and goes, "Bye-bye, Gingavir," and then walks away.
Yes.
Like, all
There's
right.
an end to it, brother. Okay.
Gabool basically takes Flogga and says, hey, does this look like a scorpion to you?
Oh yes,
Yeah.
it's. Oh god, yeah, we find out Scrablag is a giant black scorpion. That's scary.
Yeah, a little bit. I
That's the only one in the
think
series,
this
right?
is our one and only appearance of a scorpion, right? In the series?
Yep.
Probably. Insects really aren't something that's really well used in the series. Yeah, the most we really get a threat are bees, really, in a few books. It's time.
Oh, the bees.
Just getting
And,
flashbacks to Doom
yeah, Scorpion is technically an arachnid. Shut up. But Yeah, and again, it kind of goes to scale. I don't really get how big Scribleg is supposed to be here. Obviously big enough to be threatening. But compared to other insects we've seen in the series, they tend to be more, I don't know, our scale? Human scale?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm
It
under the
seems to be
impression
big enough
this
that
is like
even the badger had trouble with it.
yeah, this is like a Jurassic Park scale thing, so I'm assuming it came from some sort of Jurassic Island kind of place.
He went to Site B and was like, ah.
Yes.
It's the small ones that are poisonous, though.
Scrableg's very angry.
Clack, clack,
So
clack, clack, clack.
they said he got it from a tropical island, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
my head went to San Petra from Pearls of Lutra, but I don't know if that's right.
Ooh,
Hmm.
maybe.
Perhaps.
New headcanon.
Yeah.
Working out that monster manual.
So in way of villains when it comes to madness here, how do you guys think like Gabool ranks up with the others, right? Because you've got Sarmina. Eventually you'll see Gabool or not Gabool. You'll see Gulo. Actually, come to think of it, a lot of these villains go crazy at the end, right?
Yeah.
We
Well,
covered that a
yeah.
little bit last time, where almost every villain eventually, at some degree, loses it, especially when the tide turns against them. We've seen that where it's full on axe crazy, like Sarmina or Gabool here, pretty early on, and Clooney was definitely starting to turn towards the more the book went along. But then you see other villains like Badrang who really don't have it until Martin is about to kill him.
Yeah, Badgering kept it together for like almost the entire story. Like the only one that went goofy in that one was Clog, but that literally was because of the brain damage.
Yes. I
Yeah, the
gotta
brain
say, I think
damage.
Slagar though was crazy from the beginning, so maybe he wins because like he was already nuts when, he healed himself from the adder bite and everything. But
Yeah,
Mm.
but that was also based on like the world's biggest misunderstanding.
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah. And then Vilu Daskar was actually completely sane and didn't lose it, and except for the point where at the very end, when he's getting crushed up against his own steering wheel, going, maybe I shouldn't have killed this guy's family.
yeah, maybe not. Oh well.
Yep.
Well, Mariel and Tarquin are basically repeating earlier in the book, except she's not tied to a piece of flotsam now. Just like she's got to wonder, look down at like, really, this again?
Yeah.
I'm surprised. So earlier, I think it was book 2. She gets like she starts having like flashbacks to it during a rainstorm.
Yeah.
She seems completely calm at this point, like when she's floating around there.
Yeah. I don't like one thing, and I realize this is a children's book, but like, yeah, trauma and the after effects is something that Jake's really doesn't deal with a lot. Like, because in Pearls of Lutra, I just mentioned like there's a sudden death of a very good friend in Pearls of Lutra, and like having just gone through that is traumatizing, and they go over it, they get over it very fast.
Yeah. Like I think the only one where it doesn't, and granted it's at the very end, was at the end of Martin the Warrior, where Rose's death like completely destroys Martin.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, yeah, you would think that if any sort of rain or water or sea, like it would be traumatizing for her. I would think.
Yeah, especially it's like almost the exact same situation, just sans storm, but
Yeah, and
she's
she's with a friend. I
yeah.
mean, so there's that. But
It's almost as like you get that freeze frame moment. Yep, that's me. I bet you're wondering how I got myself in this position.
Again.
yeah.
It's playing this music in the background, like, well, let me tell you the story. And then we get the sequence with Dandin and Dury as slaves. It just keeps going. Like, am I wrong? Am I remembering this wrong? Is it just like one long sequence before they get rescued?
Maybe. Uh, yeah.
Or
I just
Yeah.
remember the guy who plays Captain Cat's in the audiobook has a very annoying voice. Like it's high pitched and annoying. Which
Yeah, I
I think is
remember
the
that, yeah.
point. like I think is intentional.
It makes you not like them.
Yes.
Yeah, so it is kind of quick, right? That they just get there and then they're rescued, just like that. And it got me thinking because I read somewhere that the original Redwall started as like 700 pages or something, and that was what was edited down to like 300, 15 or something, which even then was long for this kind of, story. And so it makes me wonder if Brian, because we're still pretty early in way of the books being published. I'm wondering if he, every single book until, it started tapering off toward the latter books, he wrote a lot. And I'm wondering if a lot of this stuff has been edited out.
Mm. That's a
Maybe.
good point.
Because I
He
mean,
may
I
have
get the
had the
impression
Tolkien
when we
approach
get
originally.
back to, yeah,
Hmm.
like when we get back to Dury and Dandon, it's like they have been rowing for quite a while because they're like, oh man, my body hurts. Like, so I don't know if he had written that down and it just got edited, like you said, or if he decided to skip over it.
It does kind of line up with like how this book is spaced out, where book one is like 174 pages, and book two is maybe 80, and then book three is not even 100. Like it's the spacing in this and the other early books is kind of all over the place. So like maybe he had more stuff in that middle section, or he had more stuff in the later sections, and those were the areas that got clipped more. Because book one has like a pretty steady pace to it, whereas this like book three seems to have a lot more happening in a lot fewer pages.
Right.
Yeah.
As if
I
some
mean,
stuff got moved around.
you do see some shorter books later in the series, right? Like by the time you get to Tagarung, book one is like 20 pages, or it's like extremely, extremely short.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just because it's just setting the scene for, then what happens later on. But it is kind of weird to think about, right? And it does make you wonder, like, what's going on in between scenes here?
Redwall, the Lost Chapters.
Yeah, you
Right.
think the publishers or something still have all the original transcripts and stuff?
It's possible.
Maybe.
I wonder if that's something that like, the fan community could get a hold of or something like that. That would be cool.
Yeah. Oh, I'd love to see that. Though I would be very disappointed if the traveling goofy music troupe from the Redwall animated series was something that was cut out of that first book.
No.
Please no. Please.
See, there's a positive side and a negative side to everything.
Not Wild Ivy. No.
Maybe Matthias' sister wasn't just created for the animated series.
Myrtle. Myrtle.
Back to the plot.
Maybe Cornflower actually did help save the day more times.
Maybe.
Back to the main plot. We get, as you mentioned, Dan and Jerry are on the ship, and we already have this. We're setting up this meme of, the sword's still getting stolen. Martin started it with Luke, and now, whoops.
Oh man, nobody can hold on to this. Oh, you know what? I don't think Matthias ever lost the sword. He just found it after it was lost to time.
Yes,
Oh.
and Dan got it stolen twice now. Once by the Flitch Eye, and once by this.
Dandon, are you sure you're Gaunt's descendant? I mean, he was the one stealing, not the other way around.
Poor Dan.
But yeah, and then they come to port, and we actually get like a short bit of camaraderie between the sea rats, where they're like, "Well, we're stuck on the ship. Hey, you want to make some skilling duff? Yeah, let's have a good time." And then they leave, and it's like, oh, they were kind of friendly, except for the point where they tortured one of the slaves. Like, hey, want some skilling duff? And he's like, yes, sir. Well, tough. We're eating it all. Bye.
Yes, they were super mean to the slaves, like purposely spilling all the food as they were serving it. Like, oh, you missed again. You're so clumsy. And it's like, oh yeah, you guys are great. Great.
I mean, I guess
Lisa.
it is kind of a step up from Velu Daskar. Like, I'm just not going to feed you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Please, sir, I want some more. There you go. You can have all the ore you want.
I want some ore.
Oh boy.
Oh,
That
and
sounds
then
like a
all of a
Monty
sudden,
Python skit.
and then a bunch of mysterious robed mice come in and rescue Dan and the slaves. And oh boy, that slave driver does not have fun after that.
No.
It
And
did
his
kind of
little buddy
remind me-
too.
Hey guys, I'm sure we can talk this out, right?
If by talk this out you mean my sword goes in your face, then yes, we can talk this out.
It kind of reminded me of back to Mossflower, where, you've got this big struggle going on, and then out of nowhere, a bunch of just robed mice are appearing, and you're like, what?
Oh
Like
yeah,
back in Mossflower, I mean,
the
there's
Lone
the full
Hedge.
war going on, right? And then they just see this parade of robed monks coming up the
Yep.
road, and they're like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah.
Kind
I'm
of similar
pretty
here, right? They just
Yeah. Well,
kind
with
of
that one, it
like,
was they're just like we're just traveling, and what was the Squirrel Queen was like? What are those ninnies
Yeah.
doing?
Yes.
Whereas in this one, they're actually like they're there on purpose and there to help out. Whereas in the other one, it was just do 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 do. We're just gonna there's arrows flying. Whatever. But then we get the big reveal. Joseph is alive, which we all kind of knew at this point because the next book is called The Bellmaker.
Well,
It's like,
Yes.
hi, Joseph's still in this book.
Yep.
I told you my rope's caught and I flew. I totally didn't fall into the bay and somehow survived.
I'm just getting this picture of Joseph like falling and then like flying like Rocky the Squirrel, and Lenny goes, "Now for something you'll really enjoy."
What's that, Rock?
I've got Gabool's head on a pike.
sweet.
We get to watch Grey Patch and Big Fang fight each other.
I do want to point out, Grey Patch, he has a start of a good idea. He knows the Redwallers are going to come from the slaves, so they need to be prepared for it. But then he turns it right around and tells his soldiers, yeah, we'll totally use the Redwallers as cannon fodder when we go after the Gabool. The whole point of you leaving the ocean was to stay away from him.
Yeah.
Maybe he's
I
just
think
stringing them
he-
along on that.
I don't know. Like, I can't decide if he wanted to get away from Gabool, but then he was like, wait, or I could come back and take over.
I think he was just trying to pump up his crew, just give like a good speech. Because some of them did want to go back to sea, but they didn't like where Gabool was and stuff like that. So they're like, yeah, and we'll do this. And, he's making campaign promises.
You'll never go hungry again.
And everyone gets $20.
A wood pigeon in each pot.
I have 2 free passes, but there's 5 of us. 2 free passes. Okay. Yeah, and which I love the fact that as soon as the slaves start getting taken away from them, they completely abandon their attack on Redwall. Like Grey Batch completely forgets about why they're there in the first place. It's like, well, no, now we got to protect these slaves that are doing absolutely no good to us whatsoever.
Yeah, I think he's hoping that he will lure them out or something. I don't know.
Yeah, they're hostages.
This is true.
They want to use it as a way to lure the Redwallers out, right? And then they can snag one of the Redwallers because they know there's going to be rescue attempts.
Mm-hmm.
So they want to capture one of the Redwallers because now not just are there innocent, slaves out there, but now there's one of them, and now they're in a tricky spot, right? Especially if it's someone young and innocent, they'll do anything for that.
So basically, he's going on defense at this point.
He's going for the long haul. He wants to keep as much of his crew alive as he can, right? At this point, he's down he came in with 50, right?
I think it says like about 100 originally.
he had
100,
100.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
and then they were down to 18
Yeah.
at some
Af-
point, right?
After
Yeah,
the last attack.
Yeah, that's right. But these
And-
guys are still morale's low. They're dropping like flies. You just got to maintain what you've got so that you can use it.
Which we find out Big Fang is not a happy camper right now, and we finally get the big
No.
clash between Grey Patch and Big Fang, and Big Fang loses because he's an idiot.
Yeah.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
I liked this fight though. This was good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It does sort of it's good in that it sets Big Fang and Grey Patch apart because at this point they are still seeing them as kind of the same, but it's just to reinforce like, oh yeah, Grey Patch, he's ahead above the rest in a lot of areas,
Yeah.
and so he can save it.
Yeah, because it points out that even though Big Fang is younger and stronger, in that description coming from Grey Patch's point of view, he's still thinking like, well, I'm still smarter than him, I'm still more clever, and I'm much more experienced, even though I'm not as young anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And he proves it is Big Fang literally just steps on like part of the fire, looks down at his foot, and then Grey Patch runs him through. Or throws a
Yep.
spear through him. And yeah, bye Big Fang. You died as you lived. Like a complete dummy.
He looks down. Huh. That happened.
Huh, that wasn't there before.
Medic.
We can change his name to Dead Fang now.
Well, I suppose.
And yeah, but also we see there's a new character watching them, Oak Tom.
Oak Tom is cool.
I do like Oak Tom.
Yeah,
I
where
nominate
does he
we
even
begin-
come from? We found out later he grew up at Redwall, but he's been on his own for a while.
Yep.
Yeah, I do
nom-
like Oak Tom. I just don't understand what his purpose is.
Well, he definitely serves a pivotal purpose later on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I nominate we begin a worst behaved Dibbins list and immediately put Oak Tom on the top of the list.
He seems to have turned out okay.
I don't know. Did he ever murder dozens of sea rats?
Well, he does, turn one of them into a sailboat later on.
Well, yes.
We'll get there.
Yep.
So I mean, think about it. I guess I'm trying to think of this from like almost like a storytelling theory kind of perspective. Why is Oak Tom there? And if you've got your A plot and your B plot going on here, we just introduced Joseph and a few characters in that A plot, and then with Big Fang gone, now in the B plot, there's sort of this, and you want something new to come in to keep things fresh. And so you've got all this stuff going on in the first plot. You got to keep the second plot kind of interesting and keep throwing things at it. So maybe that's part of the logic behind why he's there. But from a plot perspective, I don't know. He's just like a fighter or wanderer.
Well, I would say, like, I mean, this is jumping ahead a little bit, but after the fight, like the big fight when all the sea rats are kind of trying to leave, he makes the most sense out of all the characters to be the one to go after them and kind of do the vengeance route, because I can't really think of any of the Redwallers in this specific book that would have actually gone off and taken out the other sea rats. Like, if this was Redwall, Constance would have run out and started beating them across trees.
Mhm.
But in this one, I think like the closest we would have gotten was like Flag the Otter, and he just seems like a tough guy. He doesn't seem like someone that knows the woods well enough to go after them and attack from the shadows.
Yeah, it's a very, very good point. So what does he do while he's just watching in this scene, right?
Yeah, he's just sitting there watching, seeing what happens, and goes and lets Redwall know about it, and lets Clary know, like, yeah, by the way, they're going to do this. Like, they're going to build a cage for the slaves. And, yeah, Grey Patch just killed, like, the one guy that was trying to turn against him.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
From, like, a
that's it.
morale perspective,
it's
it's like... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think it's at this point that the three hairs kind of know that they're gonna, like, they kind of make peace with it in their mind. And it's like, all right, well, this is it.
Yep.
Yeah, marching off to war.
Mm-hmm.
They do allude to it. They never say it explicitly, though, right? They're just that. We have to go do that.
Yeah.
And they all
They're
get
just like-
very cheery, and I think they let Rosie laugh once.
Yeah, I think the way they put it's like, well, we knew it was going to come down to this sooner or later.
Mm-hmm.
It got me wondering, and this is followed up by probably the greatest entrance of any characters I've seen almost in this series so far, going up to do some kind of rescue mission, right? I mean,
Oh.
I'm jumping ahead a bit,
Mhm.
and we'll get to it in a minute, but then, like, you've got these hairs, like, think of it, it's like, I'm surprised how easily they think of all this, or, facade or no facade, right? They're really well composed.
Yeah, they know what they're walking into, and they literally just walk into it quietly at first, and then are just brave as and acting cheerful like they usually do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know I'm jumping ahead here, but that's scene where we're basically told that suit up with every weapon they can carry. Yeah,
Yeah.
they know what's about to happen. The Hares ultimately
Yep.
decide the best way to take care of this problem once and for all is to, even at the cost of their own lives, is to basically charge in and just murder each and every one they can find.
Yeah.
they don't-
And
Yep.
this,
And have the squirrels run away with the slaves.
yeah, which we finally get Tree Rose doing something helpful. Like
Yes.
I feel like she kind of redeems herself at this and the moment afterwards, and we get like I like the lead up to them attacking the sea rats because you see them putting on brave faces for Oak Tom, Roof, and Tree Rose, but you can tell something is wrong. And you see that crack from Rosie where Tree Rose's like, "Oh, I'll see you back at Redwall, right?" And she goes, "Of course you will. Don't worry about it." Like but she's kind of like distracted when she says this. Like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
they know what they're thinking, but she's still like doing her best to put on that brave face.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
very facade's totally gone.
mhm. Yeah, and when they go in, like they're quiet at first, and one of the sea rats sees them, and they just slash him with a dagger. Like they stab him, he's got done. They shoot an arrow that goes through one sea rat and then wounds another one. That's
Yep.
brutal.
But the thing is, right, they march in, right? It's just described as the three of them, like, just chattering away. They just march straight into the camp. There's no major charge. They don't even try to do this by surprise. They're like, let's do this. We're gonna walk straight in the middle of there, stand by the cage, get as many as we can, and then call it a night,
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
this works as a double of the rescuing the slaves, and they also know, like, okay, we need to stop these sea rats because if we die, or, if we die and they're still there, these sea rats are just going to continue to attack Redwall. And this is not only
Yep.
them fighting to free the slaves, it's to keep Redwall safe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this part was spectacularly done. I really, really liked it.
Yeah. This whole fight was incredible. And even Packatug kind of gets his, you know what? I was kind of a dingus. You know what? I'm going to go out like a friggin' warrior and hero. And he picks up, like, they tell him, like, get out of here. And he picks up a spear and goes, "No, I'm going to fight these guys and die right alongside you."
Yep. And I just gotta say, like the moment, like when I think it was Brigadier Time or something got a spear in his paw or something. He's like, "Oh, that's my best running paw" or whatever. And the way the woman in the audiobook says, "Hate to remind you, old thing, but we didn't come here to run." It's just like, whoa, like that was a really good delivery of that line.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, I know exactly what part you're talking about there.
Yep, I was thinking about that moment as well. Like just this whole sequence, and the fact that Time takes an arrow to his other leg, and he goes, "Quick, help me up, so I can still just continue taking these guys out."
Yeah.
But yeah, we have to watch all three Hares. I mean, it's incredible how well they fight, but yeah, they keep getting more and more wounded. They can't.
Yep.
Yeah, this isn't. This is like another part in the book where like the violence is not really glorified. They're putting on a last stand, and it's all treated straight faced. And they are making their jokes here and there. Like they even like Clary's like, go ahead and laugh all you want, Rosie. But it's more of a, you can laugh. He's telling her she can laugh now, but she's probably never going to be able to ever again.
Yep.
It is one of those things you can read at face value just as part of the story, or kind of do it like how we're doing it right now, right? You're just picking it apart and you're saying, oh my gosh, wait a minute. This stuff's dark.
There's all
Yeah.
these like little touches in it.
Yeah, and think about like because Brian drew a lot of inspiration from his childhood and stuff here, and he was not exposed to this sort of thing, but he was born and stuff when you had all your World War One vets in Great Britain, and I'm sure he heard all kinds of stories from these guys.
Pretty sure he served at one point too.
He was
So.
let's see, he was born in the 30s. Is that right? I'm gonna pull up the wiki.
Yeah.
What was
not
it?
sure.
I know we've looked. I think we've looked this up before too, about like what his service was.
Oh, he was born in 39.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Never mind.
Okay, yeah.
So he still could have seen all the. He still could have talked to all the World War One vets and obviously some of the World War Two vets. But you get some of these hopeless scenarios. I'm sure some of these guys had seen weird stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering if he pulled some of that partly from his, love of these rousing adventures from like the Odyssey and stuff. That's where the greater tone of this comes from. But then this element of seriousness, I'm wondering if that came from when, they were rationing stuff in his home, or when, he probably heard all kinds of things from people coming back or not coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. I do know the rationing was the reason of his very loving, very detailed descriptions of food.
Yeah, I gotta love it. That was that part. And then, with all the detail he put into Blind Simeon, it took me a minute to realize, like, of course he wants Simeon to be like the super, like, this guy with super senses. And of course he has probably the most special connection with Martin the Warrior in the whole series, right? And that he actually feels Martin guiding him around the Abbey multiple times. And I'm like, wait a minute, of course it's going to be the blind character that has this special connection, because who's he writing these books for?
Mm-hmm.
Good stuff. 10 out of 10.
Yeah. And we get the aftermath of that later on, where they're like when Tree Rose, Oak Tom, and Roof get back with all the slaves, and they know what just happened behind them, like why the hares didn't follow them. And we get the follow up to Tree Rose just breaking down and like she like crying about the fact that she told Rosie, "Oh, I'll see you back at Redwall," like in a casual way. Like we all know what happens, but when I remember reading this for the first time, like I forgot because I had read Bellmaker before this, and I forgot everything about Bellmaker, so I just recognized Rosie's name. So I didn't really think about the fact that she was in that book. But so when I read that line, I was like, oh, okay.
Yep.
Like, yeah.
It's some really good character development for Tree Rose, who's otherwise been largely useless.
Yes.
Yeah. Like she's been kind of like the pretty ditz at Redwall, and like
Bit of a
this moment,
spoiled brat.
and then later on, yeah, and then later on also when, I mean, do we want to leave this and go to the other scenes, or go back to, or just finish talking about this section? Like finish talking about this whole sequence.
What more can we say at this point?
Well, I meant like for what happens when they go back out to where the sea rats are.
Well, let's go ahead and see it through.
Okay. So basically, they find like Flag and Melis go back out to see if they can find anything, and well, first they take a nap. Good job, guys. And all of a sudden, they start hearing talk from the sea rats of like, "Hey, where'd she go? Like, oh, she can't still be alive." And that's when they find the sea rats and kill them, and they find Rosie, and shockingly, she's still alive. Like,
I'm okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not okay.
Yeah, she even like kind of perks up and is like, I guess I didn't die over there. I'll die over here. Huh. And just kind of like passes out. And We get kind of like a dark, funny line from Melis where she's like, "Rosie, if you die, I'll kill you."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which there's a variation on that later on in Marl Fox that I like more. Whereas the "if you die, I'll never talk to you again."
Yes.
But then when they get her back, the abbot and whoever like the infirmary character is, they're helping, Simeon
and Sage, I believe.
Sage, that's it. And Tree Rose even comes over. It's like, is there anything I can do? Is she going to be okay? And they're like, yeah, can you go do this? And she leaves. Like, wow, she's actually growing up and maturing. Like, we actually get, it's kind of sudden, but yeah, we do get some good. I think Tree Rose like kind of now sees like, oh, this is what the real world is kind of like.
Yeah. I mean, that can happen. I had my first seeing eye dog. I got her when I was 19 or so, and she got sick like a year later. And I just felt like I grew up so much just having to take care of her. Like I was giving her 8 pills a day for the rest of her life. It was like a constant struggle to keep her healthy. And I feel like that kind of changed me just because like she nearly died, and that kind of changes you.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, they even go so far as to actually have a line saying that. It just surprises me how overnight that young squirrel has changed from a spoilt brat to a really nice, helpful creature. And it's like,
Yep.
There you go.
Yep.
Can't be any more black and white than that.
Yep. I don't think she was involved up to this point, really, in the war type things. So this may be the first really a chance she's seen fighting up close and dying up close.
Yeah.
So I just pulled up the wiki and stuff like that, and it does say that the war informed Brian of depictions of gruesome battles, and I also, while I was at it, I pulled up some of the writers that inspired him, and one of them turns out to be the author of a book I just read called King Solomon's Mines. It's this old, like, classic author from the early 1900s, and something that I think is kind of neat is while I was reading this, there are elements of these kinds of last stands where you've got like 3 versus 100, and that it's kind of neat that it just sort of repeats itself here, and you can see some of that inspiration coming through.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess, yeah, the war did influence him on this stuff.
Okay, but yeah, so long story short, the end game in of his here is that the vermin are beaten to pretty much only about a dozen left. The 2 of the hares die. Rosie is near death, but medevac to Redwall.
Somebody had a phoenix down.
And yeah, this pretty much ends the threat to the Abbey because the vermin, after getting that big of a shellacking, decide, okay, we're just gonna go place. So.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then they get lost. And they go, hey, gang, let's split up to cover more ground.
Jinkies.
That doesn't work out well for them. Where
Not really.
They kind of play it smart, and that like, well, we'll each go in a different direction, and we'll mark trees. And when someone finds the boat, we can work our way back. Too bad Oak Tom hears this and starts marking trees and sending them on their own way. And
one group gets to meet the Flitcheye. One group gets to meet the bird.
Erectine.
Yep.
I forgot about him. So.
Yep. And then Gray Patch sees the results of all this, and it's like, I just want to get out of here. And then Oak Tom shows up, and Gray Patch is he loses his nerve and drops his sword. Just, okay, I'm gonna die now.
Yeah.
He sees it coming. It says right there, he sees the vengeance in Oak Tom's eyes, and that just completely shuts him down. And he eventually makes it back out to sea with a spear stuck in him, kind of like a mast with no sail.
He did make it to the sea, just like you wanted.
Yep.
And that pretty much ends the threat to Redwall, and they're out of the story.
Yep.
But meanwhile, Mariel and Rawnblade's parties land on the island.
Yep. And we get a good moment, like right when they're about to reach the island, where we have like a scene of Mariel thinking about Joseph, and it built. Now that we know like, say you're reading the book for the first time, you know now that Joseph is alive. It's like, oh, it's just building that anticipation for when they reunite.
Yes. And this was a good reunion, unlike the mother-son. The end.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
Hi, Dad. I'm here to help kill the guy who took us prisoner. Oh, okay. You can help. I'm going to do it. And then, no. There's Rawnblade. No, I get to kill him. And even Dan's like, well, the Sword of Martin kind of has this thing going, so yeah, I'm going to do it.
It's like, sorry, Dandin, but the carrier of the Sword of Martin gets the main bad guy moment of where it doesn't actually make any sense will happen in a later book.
Yeah.
Pearls of Lutra.
Yes.
But I actually like I like this moment too, where they're all swearing to take out Gabool, because it kind of sets up the who is actually going to beat him. Because normally it's pretty well established in each of these books. Like, it's obviously Martin and Sarmina. It's obviously Brocktree and Trun. In this one, it's okay. Who is going to beat him? I mean, personally, I think Mariel and Joseph have the best story reason to face him, because everyone else is just like, well, he's evil, so we should kill him.
And Rawnblade's like,
And
I'm Bachelor of Salamantron, so I get it.
And he literally just killed 100. You know, I was thinking like Rawnblade singing a song like to the tune of the Proclaimers' 500 Miles, like, but I would kill 500 rats and I would kill 500 more. Just to be the one to, just
Okay,
launch
don't
into
get his
some...
copyright
Roll
struck.
1,000 rats
Yeah,
and then
right.
pull a boulder down your door.
Just, yeah.
Hey, you know what? Copyright, I think parody is under fair use.
It
Yeah.
is.
It is.
I know I am quite convincing.
So just like the Proclaimers.
I think the guy who plays Tarquin does a really good job with the monologue of, well, if Mariel has him for this reason, and if Joseph has him for this reason, then how am I gonna whack him over the head with my Heralina? Like, he just gets way into it, and it's hilarious.
That was pretty good.
And my axe.
I got to point out, Rawnblade has named his sword Vermin Fate, and that is awesome.
Yes.
That is really
Yes.
awesome.
Much better than Rat Death.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You mean the name that is never mentioned again? Yeah.
That is the name that I mean, yes.
I don't know. I just picture Matthias at that moment where it's like, yeah, Rat Death. I'll totally call it that. Oh, fine, Mortimer. All right, we're all agreed. We're not actually calling it Rat Death, right?
Yes.
I was thinking I would call it Tim.
So yes, they get there and they basically develop a plan. We're gonna do a 3-pronged attack. Joseph gets to lead a crew, Mariel gets to lead a crew, and Rawnblade gets to scare everybody.
Yeah.
Hey, yes.
They're like, Rawnblade. Rawnblade's like, what do you want me to do? We need you to roll a boulder through their wall. All
Okay.
right. Sounds cool.
Why do I always get pigeonholed into being the badger? Because you're a badger.
But first, they're like, before any plans come through, we need a name.
Trag.
TRAG.
Yes, Jakes does love his acronyms. I gotta say that. Corum and Gausum and Trag, and there's more. Dab.
We eventually get Gossam with like 3 S's.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yep.
It kind of reminds me of a bit in Ultimate Spider-Man where Spider-Man looks to Nick Fury and says, "You guys have a department just for acronyms, don't you?"
Yeah, this battle is definitely more, I'd say, more actiony and less less personal involvement, like the Hares battle. Like this feels like this is the big giant battle that we were waiting for at the end. especially if it's just there's certain things in this that are kind of over the top. Like you have, Rawnblade rolling a boulder through a wall, and at one point this was awesome, but it's kind of like over the top of Mariel seeing Joseph is in trouble, so she jumps off the back of a rat she's brained with the gullwhacker so she can fly in and smash one of the other rats that's attacking her dad. That being said, that moment was
Yeah, I kinda
awesome.
Yes.
And then we get another last minute entry and introduce a actual helpful Vol. Tanlock.
Oh.
Yes.
I said it right? I said it right!
You said it
Yay!
Yeah. He doesn't say many things, and just the one thing he says to the sea rat he's looking for is, "I've been waiting for you."
Yep.
Hello,
That's pretty much
my name is
exactly how he
Tanlock.
says it. Yes.
You killed my family. Prepare to die.
Yes. Exactly.
Are we sure that sea rat doesn't have 6 fingers?
I don't know.
6
Pretty
claw.
sure.
6 claws on one paw.
Oh.
He sure is
Wrong.
lucky there aren't several others
Fuck.
wanting to kill that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Yeah, it is pretty cool though that he included that character in there, just because if you think about it, in regards to like the rest of the characters in Trag, there's not much development there. So this is just kind of like a sneaky way of throwing something in there to make the whole group holistically feel more, personable.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Also, I realized that my mic was on mute for a long time. I was like, "What? Why do you guys keep talking? I'm
Oh.
I'm in the middle of a sentence," and I was like, "Oh, that's right. Alt is to mute. Okay."
Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry, dude.
We
Oh,
were
no,
just
no.
ignoring you. We do that sometimes.
Yeah, I was just like, "Dang it!" Um, I wanted to ask while we were talking about Mariel jumping off the back of one baddie and braining another with the gull whacker, kind of like as soon as he sees someone in trouble. I wanted to ask, do you guys think she is stand out as a Mary Sue in this book? And does everyone know what that term means?
For
I've
those
heard
who
it
have
before.
never heard the term,
Yes.
Mary Sue is used as a term to indicate a self-insert character, where if someone writes a fan fiction, they write a character that is clearly supposed to represent the author's best, like they want to be a part of the story, so they make themselves into the story. The Mary Sue, it's usually used derivatively towards women who write this, but there's also a male equivalent, Gary Stu. So
Yes. And it could
Okay, I hear Marty Stew.
also be a general term for a character who's just too perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I've
the term
also
I'm
seen it
going
like that.
right there.
Yeah. I don't.
I
Well,
don't
for the
think
record-
so
Yeah.
because
Oh, go ahead.
pile up. I was just gonna say I don't think so because she definitely has flaws. Like she's very impulsive. Like she was willing to toward the beginning when she was getting ready to go on the journey. She's like, I don't want to hurt you, but I will if you don't get out of my way. Like she just doesn't think things through. She doesn't think straight. So she is a good fighter, and I think she has the potential to have good strategy. But I think she's very young, and so I do think he does a good job of showing that she has a lot of heart and a lot of spirit. But sometimes thinking things through is not all it should be.
Yeah, I think having her, like them asking her to command like a group during this segment is a little much, just because like she has no command experience.
Well,
But
does anyone else though?
yeah, other than that, I think she's handled well. Like I think it's more like if you look at her character arc in this story, it's kind of similar to Martin and Martin the Warrior, where he starts off as like a beaten down slave and just has like this special warrior's aura around him. And I feel like Mariel is very similar to that, where she's not perfect, like Martin wasn't perfect. And kind of like Martin was in that book, she does let her emotions take control at times. When she was in like the Storm Goalwhacker phase, she was like a little, she would get confused at points, but most of it was like, I'm going to hit things with my rope. That's how I solve my problems. So I don't really think she's a Mary Sue. I think is also, I mean, she is the titular character of the book. So if she was incompetent, I think that would be a bad thing.
Yes.
um, but yeah, no, I think she's handled very well.
Agreed. Although I will say that if there's any character that's a Mary Sue or has Mary Sue-ish qualities, it's not Mariel, it's Storm Gullwhacker.
Ha!
Maybe.
I was afraid you were going to say Tyrio Wildlaw.
I thought you were going to say Brioni or Bryony.
Brownie. I've heard people say Triss.
I don't know. That's how I always pronounced it in
I've
my
heard
head.
people say Triss. Yeah.
Triss?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's been a while
Yeah.
since I've read
I've
that
heard
one.
people say that about Triss. Yeah, and it's weird because Triss is one of my favorite books, and I can't figure out why. Because I don't have any particular attachment to the title character, but I just like that book for some reason. So I'm excited to kind of go through it and figure out why I like it so much.
For the record, at least with my 2 bits regarding Mariel, I don't really call her a Mary Sue because Jake's is, with the exception of almost the original book, he's never been afraid to let women be part of the fight, both on hero and villain side. And given this is the 4th book published, no, I don't think this. I don't think she's a Mary Sue because, as Katie pointed out, she is flawed.
Yeah.
So,
If anything, I'd say the cartoon version of Cornflower was the Mary Sue.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember the Cornflower from the series, from the cartoon or anything like that. I should go back and take a look at those, really.
Yeah.
honestly, I mean, yeah, you could call her Mary Sue, but one of the things we definitely agreed on when we covered that first season was that the series purposely gave her more things to do, which ultimately I think is a good thing.
I'm fine.
So-
Yeah, I'm fine with them giving her more to do. It just felt like the cartoon almost went too far in that direction, where she seemed more confident and competent than Matthias did.
Yeah, except for when they needed her to be the female in distress.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
there was that where it's
Yeah,
like all of a
that'll
sudden
keep
there's an
the topic
episode
going.
where all of a sudden they're like, well, we grabbed her wrist. All of a sudden now she's a captive. That's how it works.
Yep.
Because and I asked this question just because, especially over on the forum and stuff, you got all these topics and threads set up there where it's like, let's go through, is the character from this book, or this book a Mary Sue or a Marty Stew, in the sense of they're hopelessly unstoppable and perfect, and it kind of makes you grind your teeth a little. And I always remember that Mariel was one of them up there. Martin is, certainly one of them up there in some of those polls. But it's a theme that pops up, and a lot of people think, especially in the later part of the series, that it's one of those things that becomes more prominent as we get used to reading this style of reading.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just kind of interesting to, get some perspective there.
I would say, like, between later stuff, I can't remember her name, the main character in Hyrule Lane.
No!
Tyria.
Yeah,
She's my favorite.
she was fine, but I mean, all of a sudden she's like the savior of honor kind. Like,
Okay,
that's...
you know what? You wait right there. I'm pulling up a PowerPoint right now. Okay. I've got a PowerPoint on this.
Great.
I posted it to the forum. You're full of it. No.
Well, before this devolves into a for flaming thing, let's kind of wrap up the battle here.
All right. Yeah. That's all right.
Long story short, the Searat response to this is kind of it's not as good as it could be, and yeah, the good guys. I mean, they do suffer casualties, but they managed to overwhelm Gabool's forces relatively quickly. Gabool himself is he's actually not that perturbed like this. Okay, the Badger's here. Well, kill him if you can, but I'm going to be ready for him.
Yeah. And
He's very much on kill the badger.
yeah.
Yes.
The thing is, though, is like that's all he's focused on, like not accounting for like the hundreds of other people attacking.
Yep.
So, but yeah, then Rawnblade does try to kill him, and Mariel and crew show up. They're like, Gabool! And he goes, aha, the ghost of the mouse maid! Ha ha! I'm not scared of you!
That must be super annoying for Mariel. She's like, dude, I'm not a ghost. You didn't kill me. I don't want you to get the satisfaction of thinking that you killed me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think somebody should then whisper, like, he's insane! Don't
Yeah.
worry about it!
was like, I'm sure he was trying to set up some more traps for them. Like,
Yeah. Gabool ain't afraid of no ghost.
he was already like,
No.
let me put a rug over this hole.
Yeah. He had time to do that too. It's like
Yes.
earlier
And-
made the comment of he just left the hole open, and so this time he runs away, puts like the rug over the hole, and goes, "All right, now come and get me."
Yep. And Rawnblade has a little bit of a blood wrath problem, just a little one.
Well, yeah, Gabool apparently watched one of the Home Alone movies before this.
Yes.
Hopefully not the one with drunk Ed Asner. Jeremy will get that, but for those of you unaware, there are 5 Home Alone movies, and the 5th one has likely a drunk Ed Asner.
Oh
as
my
part of the
god.
cast.
Well,
Oh god.
But yeah, Rawnblade, he's on his way up, and he goes into the room, and there's Gabool just kind of like smirking, and he's like, "Hey, Rawnblade, does that look like a trapdoor to you?" No, why? Ah!
And
yeah.
Rawnblade, with no weapon now, because Gabool's like, "Why don't you throw that big that door chopper away, and we'll see who kills who." And he's like, "All right," and throws the sword away, and then falls into the pit. And hey, look, scorpion! And all of a sudden, Rawnblade grabs the scorpion by its tail, spins it around, and throws it out of the pit.
Whee!
I'm
And,
free!
So long, eh, Scorpion?
Yep.
And he's like, "Hi, Dad. Let me give you a big hug."
Yeah. Or as I put it,
Yeah.
Gabool versus Scorpion. Scorpion wins. Fatality.
Oh God.
Like that's when
I
Mariel and the
followed
other
that up
guys
with-
were coming up, like
Yeah.
mine.
I followed that up with Dandin versus Scorpion. Dandin wins. Sword of Martinality.
Yet, so Rawnblade tosses the scorpion out, like we said, and Scorpion gives Gabool a nice big hug and a stinger to the neck.
Yeah.
I will hug him and squeeze him and
Oh, I'm dead. And then Ganon immediately kills the scorpion
he
after
cuts it in
Gabool.
half, like lengthwise. Good lord. Oh. And yeah, they're all like, well, I guess none of us killed him. All right. Darn it.
Yes, it's just like Madamayo.
Yeah.
This is true.
Except
Fell
this
in the
time
pit.
there's no stoolie for Manameo to be upset that he didn't get to beat up.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Rawnblade's down in the pit, like, hey guys, can you help me out here?
Yeah.
Let's go home, guys.
Guys. Hello.
Turn off the lights as they
Top of a
leave.
bunch of rat corpses.
Smelly.
I'm smelly.
All right, so what happens next? You know, everyone, the battle's over.
Everyone
and,
gets a boat.
Everyone gets a boat.
You get a boat, and you get a boat, and you get a boat.
Everyone gets a boat, and everyone finds $20.
Yeah.
Tarquin names his ship Rosie because
Wait, let me guess.
vicious.
it's not-
Rosie.
That's like, think of it though. Were these nice ships, or were they kind of scummy?
Well, they're
You know,
sea
you
rabbit
think
nose.
Yay.
The ship was like, oh, thank you.
Yeah. Yes.
You named this giant, disgusting, moss-covered garbage scow after me. Yay!
A garbage
Holy
stew.
Just died on that. Glad my name's associated with it. Oh, you carved it in the side of the boat. Oh.
Hey, Tarquin, what's that? Rosie shoots a fire arrow. Oh gosh, I don't know how that happened.
Yeah.
Whoops, it seems to have burst into flames.
All right, so all the ships burned down, and then
Yes. Well,
And-
and then what's his name? Rawnblade. I was gonna say Gabool. I was like, that is not right. That is not right. He's dead.
I'm okay.
Anyway,
The ghost of Gabool.
And Gabool's just,
so Rawnblade says that he's gonna give the bell to Redwall because Martin told him to.
Yeah.
Also, Martin totally
No,
told me
not
to,
exactly, but
totally told me to grab the scorpion by its tail and toss it up.
Martin was a very big fan of Mario 64.
yes,
Martin Ex Machina.
Martin Ex Machina.
that happens a lot in this series.
Yeah,
but
of course.
I'm complaining.
Villain
No,
dies because of act of Martin.
It's not
Actually, well,
though.
actually, this is actually the ghost of Luke, because he's out at sea. He died out at sea. Martin's still at the Abbey, so, but no one will ever
Oh,
credit
okay.
him for it.
Yeah. Thanks, Green Lantern. I am not Green Lantern.
Well said.
Yeah, this kind of wraps up pretty quickly. They're just like, want to go home? Yeah, let's go home.
Well, it's like they had
Well,
already told
slaves.
all the slaves, like, Redwall's awesome. It's like, let's go to Redwall!
Yep.
And yeah, it wraps up, and they bring the
guys
bell to
just go
Redwall, and
look at us?
everything's... What?
An entire afternoon at Blitz and Chits. It's like all the sea rat gold just goes to like the equivalent of Chuck E. Cheese. Like, yeah, party boat.
Oh, yeah, they kind of head home, and Rawnblade's like, hey, Redwall, here's your bell, like we said.
And a whole lot more mouths to feed.
Yep.
Yes.
And they're like, by the way, this bell says that it was going to go to you guys anyway. I just figured I'd say I'm giving it to you because I want to feel important.
yes.
Yes, right
Well,
here
you know
is
the-
Badgerous for Redwall.
And they get back and they're like, hey, we need a rope to hang this bell with. And everyone turns and looks at Mariel.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, I always read it as they use the rope to ring the bell, like it's attached to the bottom of it.
yeah, it's not the
Eh?
whole.
Yeah, yeah. Because like Saxtus in his journal is like, oh, I know, I bopped my head on it, which to me that means it's hanging beneath the bell.
Yes.
Mhm.
I really hope they washed all the rat blood off of it. These are things I think about. I think about weird stuff.
Hey, right, jeez. So
Oh.
how big exactly is this bell? Because they bring it in on like a wooden cart, right?
Yeah.
So
Well,
enough
they
to
got a
crush a
badger to pull
rat.
it.
So they got it on and it's like big enough to where like Gabool was like hugging it, right? And
Yeah.
even
And it does
the badger, he had to walk around it to see all of it.
Yeah. It
And
does
so-
crush Clooney in Redwall.
Yeah. And so it's probably pretty big, right? So
Yeah.
I've got like pulled up in front of me for reference the size of like the bells in some of the cathedrals in Europe, right? And so I'm going to like the big bass bell
Mhm.
that they use to really toll. And one of them I see here is the equivalent of like 8.5 feet in diameter, and how many it's 13,500 kilograms or
Wow.
30,000 pounds. So do you think they carry that in on a wooden cart?
That's it's the
Well-
remains of the Rosie ship.
Yeah.
I mean, like I
Yeah.
said, they kind of have a male badger to pull the said cart, so...
That's
Yeah.
true. And it could be just smaller.
I
But I mean,
it's
these things aren't tiny. Like these are like heavy.
yeah, and it's big enough that at the end of Redwall they're able to split it into two different bells.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is true. So it's just kind of neat to think about like this, this is probably like really, really enormous and it's just kind of glossed over.
We also get in the epilogue the setup for Salamandastron and then Redwall with Roof placing the Sword of Martin up on the roof. Wait,
Huh.
Roof went on the
Ah,
roof.
Roof up
Yep.
the roof.
Yep.
Did not mean that on purpose.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
that's pretty good.
And Saxtus is Abbot now. Yay! And
Whoa,
he's
what?
not super old like he is in Martin the Warrior.
Yep. And did they say in this one that Oak Tom and Tree Rose get married?
They do. And also Tarquin and Rosie for unfathomable reasons.
Yep.
Like, that
and
came out of nowhere.
don't they have like 12 kids too or something like that?
Yes, they do.
Well, they
Enough
are.
for an entire, like, what would be the term?
They create a
Regiment?
regiment.
A regiment.
Regiment,
Yes.
yes.
Yep. Gotta replenish the ranks.
So I guess, in all, what did everyone think of as we sort of bring it to a close?
And before we get to everybody's, let's first hear from our correspondent, Drew, who we have not heard from in a long time. Drew?
Redwall puns, take one. Why didn't Goldwhacker get any Christmas presents? It was naughty. Someone asked me if I'd heard of Joseph. I told them that the name rings a bell. Why does Martin the Warrior think he's a bad gardener? Because his rose died. Thank you, and good night. If you need to find me, I will be in hell.
Thank you, Drew. We really appreciate your puns. Well, I'll go
I
first.
like this book.
Nice. Okay. Well, any.
Let me put it to you this way. It's, I mean, I maybe it's just because that order I read them originally, because it was literally Martin the Warrior and then Bellmaker was my literal first two. But I can remember as a kid not reading or rereading this one nearly as much as the others. And it's not that I don't enjoy it as an adult. I do. It's a decent Rebel book. It's just I won't say it's one of my favorites, and it's not out of malice or any kind of critical element of it, but going back through this, there is just so much happening even for a book meant for kids that sometimes I was just sitting here like wishing for the A and B plots of Matameo, really.
No, I really liked it. This one I read originally. I always remember when I read this one and Matameo because I read them both within 2 weeks of within a week of each other. Because I was sick for the entire 2 weeks of winter break in 7th grade, and so the first week, first week I read Matameo. The second week I read Mariel of Redwall, and
Nice.
I remember really enjoying it, and just probably because I have such a vivid memory of like lying in bed sick reading this and really enjoying it back in the day. And it's definitely one like rereading it now. Us now analyzing a little bit more and paying more attention to things. That whole sequence with the hares essentially going to their deaths, that's even better now than when I originally used to read it. Like now that we've pointed out all these little things about it that are super well done and like these little touches. So yeah, I really like this one, and I really like Mariel, like the character.
Me too. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Again, I'm not my opinion here. I'm not saying I dislike it. It's a good one, but I don't know how quickly I'll return to it. So.
Well, I don't dislike any of these books. I mean, I had issues with some of them, as have been discussed, but like I would happily reread any of these.
Yeah. I mean, as far as this book goes, in my opinion, it's difficult to place because, I mean, to my taste, I'm not as much of a swashbuckling fan. You know, the dichotomies of stories, the classic pirates versus ninjas. I'm more of a ninja person than a pirate. So it's like I'm not going to enjoy this as much as I'd say enjoy Marl Fox. That Marl Fox is just a better story in my opinion, but that's because I like those story beats. I mean, there are elements of Mariel that I absolutely adore. Some of the fight scenes are great, and sometimes the banter is just unparalleled. But if I had to say, how likely am I to reread this again in the next 10 years? Maybe 2 rereads, but it's not going to be one that I'm going to be looking to reread every single year.
Is that everyone?
Is that everybody?
All right, cool.
Honestly, yeah. It's. I think I mean we're gonna cover Bellmaker, but as a kid I like that one better. So because we are not done with these characters yet, and there's yet another villain to take down, but not at Redwall.
Yeah.
Nope.
All right, Jeremy. Before we do last bits, where can they find us on the net, or do you mean to do it?
You can find us at recorderonthewall.com. We are on iTunes and Google Play Podcast. We are also featured on the official Redwall forums. We are on the Eulalia subreddit. We're all over the place. We also have a Twitter account at ROTWPod, and we have a Gmail address for you guys to send us emails about, well, pretty much anything related to the podcast, which is rotwpod@gmail.com.
Very good.
Sweet.
Okay. Our regular guest guys, do you have anything you want to promote?
I think we're all set over here. We've got some exciting changes coming to the forum though, and so I'll let you guys know when that happens. I think it's going to be really fun.
Cool.
Glad to hear.
That's what you call a teaser in the business.
Yes, just a little something to whet your appetite.
Okay, well, we'll try and get everybody together and back in 2 weeks for the start of the Bellmaker. Now, if you're wondering on our order of what we're going to do when we come around to Redwall and Matameo again in order, just telling people now, we plan to cover the graphic novel for Redwall, respectively. There was one graphic novel made in the series, black and white. I'm looking forward to rereading that. And then for Matameo, we're going to cover, well, season 2 of the animated series, and Tim Curry.
Tim Curry.
Yay!
Best voice actor ever.
It'd be interesting to hear how they got Tim Curry.
It's an excellent question. But yes, he plays Slagar, and it's going to be awesome and fun.
Look, that I am definitely looking forward to.
As for the rest of the year, I don't know. I'm hoping we might hit, I have to remember what's after, is it Pearls that's after Matameo?
Yep.
Yes.
Pearls.
We'll probably get to Pearls before year end, but I don't know. I don't know after that. So, because we have our other episodes to do. So.
More food.
Indeed.
Yes. We're gonna, spoiling here, we are gonna do a summer food episode because I want to.
Yep, I'm fine with that. I've
Sounds good.
been cooking up a lot of stuff lately.
Okay, folks. Well, I'm Pete, your Papa Abbott.
I'm Jeremy.
I'm Katie, the
Matthias.
blind herbalist. Oh, we went over each other. No,
I'm
you're
Tammo.
doing so good.
I'm Adam.
Is that everyone?
Yeah, because Katie and I talked over each other. Ignore me.
Yes.
And we'll see you next time, folks.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.